Hey guys, it's Vanessa with Up and Growing, and I'm going to be making some chunky macarons. All I did was cut out some circles with my round cookie cutters out of a 1-inch styrofoam board, and then I just smoothed the edges just a little bit and just kind of prepped them a little bit. So I'm going to be using my Bose foam clay. I did tone down the purple with some white. I'm going to remove my ring so I don't get any dents in my clay. I've already conditioned it. I'm just going to roll it out. You do want to prep your clay. You want to check to see if there's any air bubbles in there. You don't want your air bubbles popping as your clay is drying. All the foam clay does shrink a little bit when it dries, so you want to just, like right there, there's a bubble that I just popped. Just want to run your finger over your clay a little bit, see if it has any of that, if we can minimize any little dents, little tiny cracks in our clay as it dries. Why would we not take that time to go ahead and do that? So I'm just going to put a little bit of super glue on top of my styrofoam. I'm going to use the Gorilla Glue. You guys can use tacky glue. I just want mine to dry fast, so I prefer to use the super glue. And you want to make sure that you don't have any air bubbles when you're laying your clay on top. This is a lot thicker than our normal macarons, so you just want to go around the outside so your clay naturally falls. We're going to flip it over and I'm going to trim the excess. I'm going to leave some of that there so I can close this off. And I do like my clay thick, especially for this, when I'm lifting clay up around the edges of anything. So I just want to add a little bead of glue around the outside there. I'm going to place my finger here and I'm going to gently lift it up. You don't want to stretch your clay around the outside. And I'm going to start closing it off. Just lift it up gently. Don't stretch your clay. So if we got that thickness here and we cut our clay a little short, we can pull it so we can close it all off. We'll have that clay there. It's right there. You don't want to stretch your clay down here, but if we're going to move anything, it's going to be that extra clay up at the top. So once I close this off, I want to go around. I want to make sure that my clay is nice and even all around. I want to leave the center exposed for when I put my macarons together. I'm going to reshape this little piece of scrap foam from when I cut my circles out, and I'm going to use that as my center. And then we're just going to flip it over and make sure that everything looks good. I don't want this clay uneven. And then with my clay here, I'm going to roll out a tiny rope to go around the outside at the bottom of our macaron, give it that little macaron detail that we love. I'm going to keep this kind of thin. If you guys are struggling rolling out some ropes and you're using the softer clays, just be mindful of your pressure. Those soft clays don't need a whole lot of pressure. All right, so what I'm doing is attaching this right at the bottom of my macaron. I'm going to meet it up to the back and I'm going to cut, and then I'm going to take my chippy brush and I'm going to give that little piece that we added some detail. little texture. Sorry, I'm using wrong words today. And then we have our top or our bottom. I'm going to make a second one. So when you guys are rolling out any ropes, don't use your fingers. Use the palm of your hand, the chunkier part of your hand. You don't want to be rolling out with your fingers like this, because you're definitely not going to get a nice even rope. And I know that's a struggle for a lot of us. Okay, so now I want to go in with my filler piece. We're just going to roll out a big white piece for this. We don't need to fill this whole center and waste our clay. So I'm going to use this. I want to make sure that my clay is not, it's out of my way, so I can glue this right to the styrofoam and line this up so that all of this styrofoam is touching this piece. So I'm going to add some hot glue here while I drop everything on my table. Okay, so I have my center of my macaron filling rolled out. Even though this clay is fresh, I still want to add just a little bit of super glue right there. And you want to make sure that the thickness of this is going to be at least the same thickness as your foam in there, so that when we close it off, there's no spaces. And then I'm just going to attach it. I'm going to bring that to that outer lip. Cut it here. All my cuts are going to be in the same spot. And I'm going to put some hot glue and attach my top. I'm just putting that hot glue right on my styrofoam. I want to make sure that that's open and exposed. And I want to push it down to make sure that styrofoam touches. And then I'll adjust my center if need. And then if you want, you can go around and also give your filling some texture. I could see where my clay is not even here, so I am going to close that off using my chippy brush. Just like that. And then we got a nice chunky macaron. These are super cute for your Candyland trees. Thanks, guys.